Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. I didn't say this in my article about him today, but he's a very good kicker. It seemed like it would have been a weird aside, but I should say that it probably matters because it gives him a little bit of standing. I don't think the Chiefs can just cut him and not worry about their next Super Bowl run. He gave a commencement speech at Benedictine College, and he spoke for 20 minutes. And it seems as though he is the most controversial individual in the NFL right now, having momentarily overtaken Aaron Rodgers. And at first, when I saw this, Mike, I thought it was a media thing where they were overreacting, that he said something positive about masculinity, and these neurotic media people can't help but freak out. But then I actually listened to the entirety of the 20-minute address to this very Catholic college and went, oh, no, this is really controversial. This is going to some places. He really went after Biden. I wrote it down. I'll copy myself right now. He basically called Biden a fake Catholic. He took shots at Pride Month, the pro-choice movement, gender ideology, and the leaders of the Catholic Church that have bent to some of the progressivism of right now. But the main thing, and I will finally stop talking so you can talk, Mike, the main thing that he has been crushed for in the media is when he addressed the women in the room, and he said, quote, "Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother." He went on to say some more things about that, but that has been the main catalyst. The DEI official of the NFL just spoke out against him.
Harrison Butker positioned himself, told the world that he was almost to the right, if we could use those that framework of Opus Dei, or he's a Mel Gibson type Catholic. He believes in, he called it TLM, which is traditional Latin Mass. And again, there's nothing wrong with this, but these are Catholics who look at the Pope as insufficiently Catholic. These are Cardinal Rattenberger / the last Pope. Those are those of his ilk, and there's a lot of prominence to them online. But even so, what I'm saying is there are not few of these types of Catholics. I don't know too many who have been very public, who are famous in the world of sports. But I would go even further, because I've been listening to some podcasts where the host of this podcast talked about talking to Harrison Butker, his pal Harrison, the next day. And they talked about the aftermath of the Benedictine speech. And this guy and his co-host get into fights with the other traditional trad Catholic people. And they, he says things like, well, I mean, I sent you a clip or two, but he maintains that 75% of women experience diarrhea because they don't have the proper gender roles and know that they should be wives, for instance. And he's not
get a fact check on that, Mace. Get a fact check on that one. We need to look into that one.
Yeah. So we can. I want to stop it there and tell me if I'm telling you anything you didn't know, or if you disagree with how I'm seeing Butker. I don't want to use words like extremist, but where he is within Catholicism is very, very far to the right. Very, very traditional.
You could say non-pejorative, just descriptive, fundamentalist. I think there is a going back to basics aspect to it. I also realize that I'm a bit of a stranger in a strange land here, and it's funny. I'm more curious about people I don't understand sometimes than inherently judgmental. And when I watch something like this, I go, oh, this is a very foreign world to me. And there's this uncanny valley to it that I think is an unacknowledged part of the conversation, which is that Harrison Butker appears like somebody who would be quote unquote normal, right? Or somebody, you could see him fitting into regular American life. And then you discover, oh my God, you're part of this very intense subculture that I know nothing about. And there's always a reaction to that to that kind of thing in a way where I think for a variety of reasons, if he was at a mosque giving this speech, it would not be the sort of media thing that it became. I think there's an aspect of people in American society, in the media, feeling a little bit more like they can critique white, Christian, whatever, as something that's not entirely foreign, I guess. I'm not being very articulate. I'm just trying to think aloud and think through this whole thing, because when he started saying was it the TLM? What is it again?
Traditional Latin Mass, TLM. Yep.
Yes, which I've heard before, but it's when people start using acronyms that explain the acronym, that's when you know that you are in a subculture where everybody kind of knows what's up with one another. And the vast majority of NFL players are not traditional Catholics to this level. But what's funny about it all is I also don't think he was saying things that necessarily offended the median NFL player. So in a way, this is about religion and this specific religion, but in a way, it's not about that. It's just there's so many angles to it, Mike, so much.
Yeah. And the word homemaker, which has this 1950s retro sheen in his world, literally means she's in charge of the home, the hearth. She's in charge of making the home. Don't think of it in terms of a woman's place is in the kitchen, but they would quote biblical passages that in some churches are ignored or half ignored about, 5 Ephesians. I'm learning all about this, but wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. This part of the Bible is often skipped over in church. And I was reading an article in the National Catholic Register trying to reclaim this part of the Bible, the King James Bible, the Bible that is used in Catholic churches. And so what I'm saying is, when he said homemaker and it gets stripped and put in a headline, it seems like he's being very retrograde and very 1950s. He's actually not speaking, in the 1950s, there's a lot of anti-Catholic sentiment. He's speaking from a different understanding of the word homemaker. It is not anywhere near the understanding of the word homemaker that most women college graduates would find unoffensive, but it's slightly different. And where, the characterization of him is sort of, I think he would find it unfair because he would say, that's not what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I think we're both having the same thing happen where we're approaching this with some curiosity and trying to figure it out, but we are not Ross Douthat. We are not grounded in this particular tradition. And this does get to an unreconciled, fraught complexity with modern life, which is that we're a pluralistic society where people are allowed to follow their religions, allowed to have their religions, but the religions often, when practiced specifically at a fundamental level, are not in accordance with the dominant secular ideology of modern life. So it's really more of an in theory versus in practice setup, I feel we have. Maybe you would disagree, but there is this thing of, well, in theory, yes, you can be the exact kind of Catholic you want to be. Oh, you're talking about it? Well, in practice, the NFL actually has an issue with it and needs to say something. That's, I think, part of what's happening here, which is that I don't know if you would call it a religion, but we do have a sort of conception of morality that we practice that is secular but has some religious fervor to it.